Hi, I'm George Nordhaus, and today, Monday morning, has something different, very different. It's all about the world of the CFO. Who would have thought? And I wouldn't have thought, but when Scott Addis came to me with this idea, I realized that it's not something that we all talk about or use or anything else. It's a different kind of approach. It's the same approach, but from Scott's, well, I'll let him tell you about it. Scott is, of course, at the Addis group. You know that, over in Philadelphia, and he runs Beyond Insurance, and there are a number of other organizations that he runs. It's quite amazing. He had his own agency. It was a big agency there, and he sold that out some years ago, and instead of retiring with all that money, he decided to stay in the business, and thank goodness he did, because he's been one of the best presenters and the best influences, and a different kind of a thinker. Scott, I think I like that best about it. Why the world is CFO?
Well, George, thanks so much. You know, you think about all the business decisions we make, I would suggest in the business of insurance, compliance, risk management, benefits, and so forth, we've got to work through that CFO. That CFO has so much authority and so much decisions. Yes, certainly the CEO is involved, the HR director, but I really think we've got to understand that that CFO is the linchpin for almost every decision that affects us in our industry.
Well, I guess you're probably right. All right, it's your nickel.
Okay. Well, George, I want to say thank you very much, and it's funny, my passion still remains the Addis Group, so thank you for, although I do not own the Addis Group today, certainly that remains a passion, but I want to say to you and the listeners, I am very, very pleased to be on your program, and thank you, George, for all you do in our industry. You are a difference maker.
Well, okay. You just have to outlive everybody. That's the key.
So let's now take a look at this fellow on the right-hand slide, and you can, or this right-hand side of this slide, and that is today's CFO. They are juggling so many responsibilities, but as I said a few moments ago, we have to realize that so many implications of what we want to have happen in a positive way move through that CFO. These decisions include, but are not limited to, insurance, risk management, compliance, benefits, and so forth. And in your quest to become that trusted business advisor, it's essential that you comprehend the world of the CFO. And that's what today is all about, just trying to understand what is the role of the CFO. And I truly hope if we can better understand that world, good things will result. The role of the CFO, by the way, has become much more complex than ever. They're doing more with less and juggling as never before in a climate of fierce competition, rising costs, and increased customer demands. CFOs, by the way, are expanding their roles to include managing people, systems, technology, infrastructure, in intense regulatory scrutiny. Historically, and George, I'd love you to comment in a moment, but historically the CFO's roles and responsibilities were pretty narrowly defined. You know, their focus was limited to financial planning and record keeping, as well as financial reporting to higher management. Success was seen in terms of balance sheet protection, and most of these CFOs came from accounting backgrounds and rose through ranks with corporate finance or departments. So would that be a fair assessment of the former CFO, George, really a person just focused on the financial implications of a business?
Seems to me it is, because I never thought of it this whole time. In fact, when you came up with this thing, I'm so inured into the feeling that a CFO is just a financial guy, and that's a start, stop, and that's the end of it. I just didn't realize. But now thinking about all the technology and everything that's going on, I understand exactly where you're going.
Yeah, and it's so critical we understand that. The modern-age CFO is radically different than his or her predecessors. They're required to be business generalists with an in-depth knowledge of their enterprise. They're custodians of organizational knowledge. Today's CFO faces pressure to cut costs, grow revenue, institute controls, and are even putting their personal risk for the company's mistakes. Now, one of the reasons the CFO's job is so fraught with this challenge is because it's really 4 jobs in one. So let's spend a moment and analyze each of these 4 jobs. Number 1, they're a steward. Their job is to preserve the assets of the organization by minimizing risk and getting the books right. So number 1 is a steward, but they're also an operator, conducting financial operations efficiently and effectively. The third, however, is a strategist. They influence a company's overall direction. And the fourth is a catalyst, installing a financial mindset for execution and risk-taking throughout the business. So if we go back to that former CFO that you and I might have grown up with today, it is radically a different individual. And we need to be aware that the key objective of the CFO is to improve the organization's decision-making ability. especially the CEO. The CFO accomplishes this by delivering reliable information to the company's management team and helping these people analyze the data to facilitate the decision-making process. Today's CFO excels in strategic planning, performance management, infrastructure design, deal-making, team development, and external communication. And that's why when you think of the last time you went into a prospect or an existing client and the CFO was gathering all the information, they were thinking strategically, and is it correct, George, they brought in the HR director, they brought in the CEO, they brought in the COO, they might have brought in the safety director, and they said, okay, let's make the right decision for us. But I think it's true today that they would be the catalyst. Would you agree, George?
I agree, and I think that as you're talking here, one of the ideas that came to me is that agents who have this Monday morning that you're recording right now might want to take it, and they're certainly welcome to do that, and send it to the CFOs that they're dealing with. I think they would enjoy this, don't you?
Great idea, and I think they're going to agree and say they're doing this and much more. Great idea.
Yeah, I didn't know I was doing all that until Scott came along.
Well, you know, let's talk about the CEO now. Let's move from the CEO to CFO to the CEO. The CEO relies greatly on the CFO. A series of strong relationships and a mix of skill sets allows the CEO and CFO to share the workload of managing the business. As a standard, the CEO expects the following skill sets and characteristics of the CFO. Let's walk through the following 8 skill sets. Number 1, strong financial leadership skills. Number 2, experience with technology and information systems. Number 3, ability to identify and capitalize upon revenue growth opportunities. Number 4, understanding of the business and market challenges. Now we go to number 5, ability to align day-to-day operations with long-term strategic goals. Number 6, a mindset to reduce costs without compromising productivity. Number 7, ability to effectively interact with all departments within the organization. And lastly, to have a passion for what they do and a desire to go above and beyond their job description. You know, it's interesting. My very dear friend and roommate from college today is the CFO of Merck. He's had an amazing career,
Wow.
And I think about this fellow named Peter Kellogg. Every waking day, these are the 8 things he did. And I must say, before putting this together, I went back to Peter and said, would it be true that if you look back in your career, which started with Pepsi and went into Frito-Lay and then up in Boston with Biogen, today obviously Merck, would this be true today? And he goes, absolutely, yesterday more limited, but today it's essential. He also commented that, you know, those of us in our profession, we must understand the complexities and needs of the CFO in order to be effective. Okay, let's move ahead to the and talk about the situational roles of the CFO. There are really 4 key situational roles which I think are very helpful to understand. The first is called an execution maestro. This is all about the focus on operational excellence. That's what a CFO really does. They try to make sure there's operational excellence in the organization. They instill in the organization disciplines to streamline organizational efficiency without sacrificing critical business functions. The next is a growth navigator, and many might say, well, wait a second, is that really a responsibility? Today it is. The CFO works closely with the CEO and other members of his or her management team to develop an aggressive plan to achieve profitable growth through many ways, including acquisitions. As a growth navigator, by the way, the CFO is adept at resource management, business planning, as well as performance management. The next is a business transformer. Today's CFO is expected to recognize opportunities for strategic innovation and take advantage of them. Strong leadership and people skills are a must. Years ago, George, maybe that wasn't a must. I mean, if you think about the CFO that might be in your or my mind, maybe strong leadership and people skills weren't a must. Would you agree?
Oh, totally, and you didn't even see them. As a matter of fact, you knew they were there, but you just didn't see them, and it's a different world, I guess.
Yeah, but today he or she must be a consensus builder, sell appropriate goals for the business model, and deliver upon the performance objectives. However, this void creates a huge opportunity for those listening today. Lastly, in many organizations, and probably the most difficult task for the CFO is to be a turnaround surgeon. That is restoring the financial health of his or her business. As a turnaround surgeon, the CFO must be capable and confident in making changes where the business is failing. And that, by the way, does include risk management, compliance, HR, and benefits. For this reason, the CFO must have an in-depth knowledge of the business as well as an analytical tools to assess the state of business, set priorities, and allocate resources to impact change. I'm going to stay with Peter Kellogg and Merck. We had dinner probably a couple months ago, and I was so interested. He knew the business so well. He knew every single drug, how it's being developed, and I was sitting back and said, wow, I guess I should have expected that, but it surprised me the fact that a CFO really knew the business so completely.
That's why he's ahead of it.
Let's move to insurance and risk management and take this into the CFO. CFOs are well equipped to manage the finance and related areas. However, the research indicates that they're not equipped for other key responsibilities, including risk management. A 1996 Los Angeles Times article, so yes, this is still 8 years old, but here's what is stated. It stated that fewer than 20% of the CEOs believed that their CFO was doing a good job managing risk. And let me say that again. Although it's 8 years dated, the article stated that the CEO believed...
Did you say, or 2006?
2006, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, because that's 18.
I'm sorry, this is a 2006 Los Angeles Times article stated that fewer than 20% of the CEOs believed that their CFO was doing a good job managing risk. Now, the Los Angeles Times article is supported by a survey that I'm going to show you in a moment that Beyond Insurance did in 2008, in which we actually had 100 CFOs and actually got their response to the following 6 questions. And I think this may blow you away. What I did, I was asked by an accounting firm, if I would do a presentation in Philadelphia. There were 100 plus CFOs, and I asked the accounting firm if they would mind if I did a quick survey. So these are the 6 survey questions, and here are the responses. And I think this may be shocking when you see these responses. The first question is, to what degree do you enjoy the process of procuring insurance? Look at this response. 0 meaning they despise it, 5 meaning they like it. The average response was 1.6. So probably not surprising, the average CFO really didn't relish the opportunity of procuring insurance. Look at number 2, however. To what degree do you have the time and technical expertise to identify the exposures facing your business? They admitted they don't have the time or expertise. Now, I apologize. I can't tell you, is it a time issue or technical expertise, but either way, they're admitting there's a problem here. Number 3, to what degree do you believe that insurance agents and brokers have a process in place to uncover and address these exposures? This is appalling. They don't believe we can do it. They gave us a response of 1.3. In other words, they do not believe that we as an industry have the ability to truly go ahead and uncover and address the exposures facing the business. Number 4, fascinating question. Who controls the game? Look at the far right. The consumer feels little control over the game, but they felt the carrier controlled the game. Fascinating. I would have thought they really felt that we, the agent or broker, had control, and they had control, but the response was the carrier controlled the game. Number 5, with all the hats you wear as a CFO, what percentage of time do you allocate toward the function of risk management and insurance? Only 5.8%. And last question is, what word best describes insurance agents and brokers? Consultative, diagnostic, or transactional?
Wow.
80% transactional. Now, when I do a Beyond Insurance workshop, I actually ask the participants the following question, which I will ask of you, George, and ask of the audience. Is this good news or is it bad news?
I think it's wonderful news. If this is the way it is, it gives us an opportunity that we've never really had before. They think we're so transactional. We're back to commodities again. But this is a wonderful
George,
thing.
George, keep going. You're exactly right.
I went to your Beyond Insurance seminar 2 years ago, and I loved it. And that's why we're talking today, because I got so much out of it. And boy, don't you think it's positive?
It's the biggest opportunity of a lifetime. If our industry is being commoditized and becoming more transactional, if you can separate you from the competition, you can go to the CFO and get their confidence that you have a process to uncover and address the risks and have applications to minimize risk. That's a weak spot. They're admitting in this survey that they have needs. Yet today, as an execution maestro, the CEO expects them to play this role. So you can be a business partner of that advisor, but only if you can, I think, do number 2, help the consumer identify the exposures facing their business. George, would you agree?
Totally. Can't argue with that. This is a wonderful thing. I'm glad you did it. I think maybe some agents should take that out to their that too to their CFOs. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's now focus on that middle market CFO, and I'll define middle market. I grew up at Johnson & Higgins, which is now Marsh, and they defined middle market when I was growing up in the 80s as an organization without a full-time risk manager. So if an organization would have a risk manager or today a chief risk officer, I would suggest they are clearly not a middle market company. But I was taught any company without a risk manager would be in that middle market threshold. So let's now talk about the challenges and time constraints of the CFO and how this creates a wealth of opportunities for those listening today. Today's multitask CFO is starving, absolutely starving for you, the insurance agent, broker, or carrier for listening, to go beyond insurance, to go ahead and say your primary job is to go ahead and say, I want to become your outsourced risk manager. I want to become a business risk analyst. I want to go ahead and help you every waking day think through and anticipate the issues facing your business. So here's what I would suggest are some of the things that they really would like us to do. Number 1, to take the time to understand their business. It's so basic, but really to say my fundamental job is learning you from the inside out. Number 2, after learning the business, to help them identify, prioritize, measure, and mitigate risk. What are the risks that confront their business? I'd also like to suggest that they want someone who covets, they covet the opportunity to say, I want to design a strategic risk mitigation plan. I want you to assess the risk and come back and say, how do we go ahead and impact the bottom line in a positive way? Might it be that safety program? Might it go ahead and be the business continuity strategy? Might it go ahead and to be a strategy to reduce claim frequency and severity, which gives them more confidence? The last thing is they do detest the traditional insurance process. They're looking for a more strategic, disciplined approach to insurance and risk management. Simply put, the CFO today does not want to be sold insurance. I'll say that again. The CFO does not appreciate being sold insurance. They want you and me to go ahead and be risk strategists. George, agreed?
I can't disagree with anything so far. I'm learning. I'm writing. I'm making notes. Is that all right? Am I allowed?
So this is where I'm going to end today's program, and simply it's a challenge to go ahead, and each of us are dealing with CFOs. I love the idea, George, of saying this is one guy in the industry, but sending this out and say, is this a way you are thinking and feeling right now? But I really truly believe that we need to truly understand that new CFO. What are they thinking? What are they acting? What are their needs and so forth? But I'm absolutely convinced they're starving for the audience today to, number 1, demonstrate a curiosity, a true curiosity for a business. Number 2, to understand the inner workings of the business. The CFO today is searching for a new brand of insurance agent and broker, consultative, diagnostic, results-oriented, focused on managing and mitigating risk rather than selling insurance. Anybody can sell insurance. They're looking for more. They very, very much want you to be their trusted advisor. So thank you, George, very, very much. That is today's program.
Oh, well, let me make a comment right about there. You have done a lot of these Monday mornings with me, and I greatly appreciate it because you have such a good overview or interview maybe of all the things. I'm going to suggest to people that they go back to the you can go to, well, it's on AgenciesOnline or in Rough Notes. You can get the archive there of all of these. We've done 40, and before this year is over, we'll have 80, if you can imagine. But Scott's done some. The one I want you, particularly a couple of them, I want you to look at, when you go back on the archives there, is the one he did on risk management. I think that is one of the best. I mean, we all kind of understand what risk management is, but that webinar to me, Scott, was one of the most learning things I've ever seen. Of course, I got that in your Beyond Insurance seminar too, and I loved it. So that one, and then you And Roger Sitkins did the couple of these a few months ago on the McKinsey report, and boy, oh boy, that really got to people. Scott, that's been seen by so many people now, you can't believe it. More and more people go back into that archive and they send their employees or maybe their customers, or I don't know what they're doing, but at any rate, they're doing it. Well,
thank you,
and
George.
you are, I know, starting a number of, or 2 or 3 new projects. I won't go into them now. Let's hold that because then we can cover it in another one of the Monday morning, Scott. But there's 3 or 4 projects. Anybody listening here that likes what they hear, you should contact Scott because look at the wait till you hear some of the programs that are being put together that have never been done in our industry. And I won't go. I'm so enthusiastic about it. I'm frustrated because I can't tell everybody, Scott. But listen, thank you for everything you do, and I do appreciate it. And I hope that people will go back to the email and get on the Arizona Missions tip of the day. A lot of people seem to like that every time. It's a little challenging for them. And then they go into the quiz flash. So those are great things to have. Scott, you've done a wonderful job as usual. May I thank you on behalf of all of us who are really, really learning.
Well, George, thank you very much. It was my honor. And just once again, as you embark upon trying to understand and delve into that CFO, their level of appreciation is going to be very, very immense because I think many CFOs feel as though they're not understood, they're not heard, they're not respected, they're not loved. When you do this, great things will happen. George, thank you very much.
A pleasure.